don't see my co-host this evening, Jessica Merkin, on yet. So I'll just wait a couple minutes. She was on, and I think maybe there was a technical difficulty. So I'll just wait a second. Hi, Jessica. It looks like you were able to join us. Is everything working over on your end? All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm Holly Dyer. I'm the Assistant Director for the Trust Land Management Division over at the Office of State Lands and Investments here in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I will be joined by Jessica Merkin, who is hopping on and off this call, but we'll make sure that she's on. And we'll just wait a couple more minutes to troubleshoot the technical difficulties. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to keep you updated. We are experiencing a couple of different technical difficulties happening on our end. If you could just give us a couple more minutes, we should be ready.
Holly, can you hear me?
Yes. Ben, could you see my screen when I was sharing it? Hi, Jessica.
Hello. Technical difficulties today.
Perfect. And I think we should be good. Ben, are we all set on your end?
Yes, good to go.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody. Welcome again. My name is Holly Dyer. I'm the Assistant Director for the Trust Land Management Division. I'm here with Jessica Merkin. She's our Real Estate Analyst in the division. And also Ben Bump is our wonderful Zoom host this evening. And so we won't hold it to him on the technical difficulties. That's just part of how life goes these days. But we are certainly glad to have Ben Bump here to help us troubleshoot and help us navigate the Zoom presentation. I'll go ahead and share my screen. And we will get this presentation going. So thank you all for joining us today. We are here to discuss the proposed land exchange in Weston County. And this is a public hearing for the proposed land exchange. Usually we're able to do this in person. We actually are able to travel across the state and meet face-to-face, but unfortunately, due to the circumstances with today's pandemic, we're unable to do that, but we're very grateful for Zoom and for the technology present today to help us accommodate and still have these public hearings in light of the pandemic. So I am going to be giving the brief overview of our land transaction process and a brief overview of OSLI, the Office of State Lands and Investments. And then I'll be handing over the presentation to Jessica Merkin, who is our real estate analyst, and she'll go into some of the proposed exchange details. And then we'll make sure and take any public comment as that's one of the main points of these presentations and having this meeting is we want to make sure and hear from the public. So the Office of State Lands and Investments is a state agency here located in Cheyenne. It's in the Hirschler complex. It is headed by our director, Jennifer E. Scoggin, and she was appointed by Governor Gordon. There are 4 different divisions. So we have the Forestry Division, we have the Field Services Division, and we have an Administrative Services Division. Additionally, we have the Trust Land Management Division, which I'm the Assistant Director over. In the Trust Land Management Division, I oversee a handful of staff, one being Jessica Merkin, who is a program manager, the real estate analyst overseeing all of the land transaction applications that come into our office. And then apart from her, but within the Trust Land Management Division, there's also a commercial leasing position, and we also have a team of surface leasing, and we also have a team of mineral leasing. So all together, we make up the Trust Land Management Division, and that's about 14 people. All in all, we have about 96 full-time employees in the Office of State Lands and Investments. Our agency mission is effectively managing natural resources and funds for current and future generations. So the agency works to serve the state by carrying out this mission in a handful of ways. The Trust Land Management Division, the Forestry Division, and the Field Services Division can be more directly tied to the natural resource management, and then the Administrative Services Division directly is primarily responsible with overseeing the responsible management of funds for the current and future generations. And one way that they go about that is they have a grants and loans program that some of you may be familiar with. One way in the Trust Land Management Division that we directly pursue this mission is that we have multiple ways of leasing our state trust lands. So that includes commercial, recreational, industrial, and agricultural use. And the Forestry Division is actively pursuing keeping forest health across the state of Wyoming. And our Field Services Division is our wonderful division that is our boots on the grounds perspective, we have a few field offices across the state, and maybe some of you know and are familiar with some of our field representatives. And so they help us understand what exactly is going on the 3.4 to 3.9 million acres that we are managing in our office. So the Board of Land Commissioners was constitutionally created in 1890, and it was charged with generating and maximizing revenue from the state trust lands to support beneficiary institutions. The largest beneficiary is the Common School Land Fund. The board consists of 5 statewide elected officials: the governor, secretary of state, state auditor, state treasurer, and the state superintendent of public instruction. So the Board of Land Commissioners, these 5 elected officials also serve on the board, the State Loan and Investment Board, and they approve the issuance of grants and loans that are processed by OSLI. However, the land transaction program is housed under the Trust Land Management Division, and everything that we do in our division does ultimately go for board approval and board consideration at one of their regularly scheduled meetings. The Board of Land Commissioners convene about every other month, so about 6 times a year, and to consider all of the different applications and proposals that we process in our office. So all of the revenue that we generate from by managing these state trust lands goes directly to the state trust beneficiaries. The beneficiary allocation is determined by when the state acquired the lands by individual land grants, which largely corresponds with location. There are about 15 different beneficiaries, and the percentages tend to fluctuate from year to year, just depending on which lands are generating, which lands have what types of leases. And so that doesn't, of course, stay the same across from year to year. But on average, we do have about 86% of the revenue that's generated from the state trust lands goes directly to the Common School Land Fund, which supports the K through 12 public education in the state. And then the remaining 14% of the revenue generated from the lands goes to various other beneficiaries that were constitutionally mandated. This is a table that outlines the state beneficiaries. And so each state trust land parcel has an assigned beneficiary that was determined constitutionally. The allocation of funds really just depends, like I mentioned before, on what lands which lands are generating what type of revenue. So the lands considered in this exchange, in this proposed exchange, currently support the state library beneficiary. And should this exchange be completed, the funds generated from the proposed acquisition, the land that we would be acquiring in exchange for the lands that we're disposing of, those new lands would also have the state library listed as their beneficiary. So there are 3 trust land management objectives. All state trust land sales, acquisitions, exchanges, and any long-term lease proposals are evaluated using these 3 objectives. It's important to note that a proposal and an application doesn't need to meet all 3 of these objectives, but rather it needs to meet at least one. And so the first objective that we look at is, how does a proposal or an application better meet the beneficiary's short and or long-term objectives? Some of the short-term benefits include increased revenue potential. So we're looking at potential leases that we could enter in that we otherwise are not attuned of or do not have a competitive advantage to incorporate into our current leasing structure. So we look at the generation potential there. And then some of the long-term benefits really are revolving around the investment value of the proposed lease, or in this case, the proposed exchange. So looking at how does it diversify our portfolio? What type of returns do we expect to get on our investment? And also looking more at the appreciation potential of any land and the intrinsic natural resource value. Some of those things that are long-term values, hard to put a short-term revenue stream on them, but definitely things that we need to take into consideration to help improve and increase the trust. The second trust land management objective is to improve manageability of the land. So a couple of these images here it shows how complicated different land ownership can be. Just looking at the different types of ownership and how it's oftentimes across the state with the state trust lands, as denoted in the blue shade, they are checkerboard across the state of Wyoming. These are just a couple of glimpses from the Newcastle area, and you can see that oftentimes, especially in Wyoming, we have BLM, we have federal land, we have state trust land, and we have private land. And so it's one thing that we do look at as an objective is how we can better consolidate ownership. When we have trust land that is adjacent to existing trust land, for example, we're better able to manage a larger area with fewer complications. And we're better able to leverage management resources of other agencies also. One particular agency is Wyoming Game and Fish. So the land manageability becomes a bit easier when we have consolidated portions of state trust land rather than a conglomerate of checkerboard. The third trust land management objective is, does the application meet a specific school or community need? And so it can either improve stability within the area, perhaps the application and proposed use or proposed exchange provides growth opportunity. And another example of meeting a specific school or community need is improving access or recreational opportunity. So this is an overview slide showing the process, the exchange process. On this particular proposed exchange, the application was received in January of 2020. And once we receive an application, it's in that Category 1 status. We as the staff of Trust Land Management, oftentimes we have a field representative join us. We go on a tour of the proposed land exchange, and we look at what lands they are proposing we dispose of, and in exchange for the lands that we would acquire. We look at both properties. So we did do that tour in the spring of 2020, about a year ago. After we go and meet with the proponent of the application and go and tour the sites, we come back and we do an internal review and we prepare our recommendation for the director. So we do an internal review and present the application and the proposal to the director, who then decides whether it meets the trust land management objectives, meets at least one of the trust land management objectives, and then she approves either advancing the application forward, or at that time, if it does not meet the trust land management objectives, then she can also deny it at that point. In this case, she did approve the application to advance on, so it went on to the Category 2. And then once we do that, we do take it to the board for their first consideration. So the board matter was first presented on June 4th of 2020. And at that board meeting, the board approved for the office to start negotiating and execute an agreement to initiate the exchange. So once the ATI, the agreement to initiate the exchange, is negotiated and executed by both parties, then we prepare and publish a detailed analysis, and we prepare it for the public review. We also schedule a public hearing, which is the purpose of tonight's meeting, and we take public comment for 60 days. Then once we complete this process, we do take the application for its final board decision to be considered, and we are anticipating that final board meeting to be the April meeting, so happening here in a couple months. This process is all outlined in our rules and regulations of the Board of Land Commissioners, Chapter 26 in Section 5, if any of you would like to see a text version of this process. And from here, I will hand it over to Jessica Merkin, who will walk us through this proposal.
Great, thanks, Holly. Let me share my screen. So as Holly mentioned, we have published our detailed analysis, and you can find that document on our website, or you can email me. My email will be at the end of this, and I can send you a copy via mail or electronically if you would like more details about this exchange. I'm just going to run through an overview, assuming that everyone who's interested has had time to access that document or will ask me to provide it for them. So this exchange is in Weston County. It is south of Newcastle, which is right up here where my cursor is. The state trust land being disposed of is this purple hatched parcel right here. And this parcel is approximately 6 miles south of Newcastle. The pink parcel is what we would receive in return should the exchange be approved by the Board of Land Commissioners. And that is about 3 miles south of the state parcel. Here's a little bit more detailed photo. You can see currently the state trust land is connected to another block of state trust land, entire section, and then to another 160 acres over here. This parcel can be accessed via the connecting state trust land that abuts US Highway 85. This southern parcel, which we would receive should the exchange be completed, would have access off of old US Highway 85, which is now a county road. So let's talk about what the state would receive first. So this parcel is located in Weston County. It's approximately 9 miles east of Newcastle. It is 160 contiguous acres. It contains 40 AUMs, which is how we measure the amount of forage available for grazing and the way we rate our grazing and agricultural leases. Should the state acquire this parcel, Weston County will be granting us access to it via a right-of-way that would be recorded, and that access would come off of Old Highway 85, which is now, as I stated, a county road. So this parcel exhibits many of the same characteristics of the state trust land that we would be disposing of. However, it has a little bit more level topography and it's closer to development. So we feel that repositioning the land to this area could be beneficial in the future. Should development really pick up in the area, we'd be in a better location for that. Here is a close-up picture of that parcel. You can see there's some BLM in the area. This is that old Highway 85 that we would receive access off of. Currently, we're estimating that this parcel contains 40 AUMs, as I stated, and right now at our current grazing and agricultural lease rate, that would come out to $221.20 annually. So the parcel we would be disposing of, the state trust land, is again very similar. It has slightly more rolling topography than the district's parcel. It does abut additional state trust land. It's approximately 3 miles north of the district parcel. It is the same acre, 160 contiguous acres. It also contains approximately 40 AUMs. Very similar foraging is available on both of the parcels. There is access via Highway 85 through the state trust land. And currently we're only producing revenue via a grazing and agricultural lease on this parcel. Now, Weston County Solid Waste District is not the grazing and agricultural lessee of this parcel. So as part of this exchange process, they were required to reach out to that operation and receive their comments. And that lessee has stated that they are not opposed to this exchange as they recognize that this is a pretty high level community need. So again, here is that parcel. This is US Highway 85. So currently the parcel is accessed via this state trust land, and were it to be disposed of, it would become the site of a new landfill for Weston County, and they would develop an easement through this existing state trust land, the larger section, to access this property, so it will still be accessible. Currently, there are 40 AUMs available for grazing on this parcel, and again, that comes out to $221.20 annually. You can see it's beautiful. So as part of our exchange process, we're required to have our lands, and the lands we would be receiving appraised by a certified general appraiser. And so those appraisals were completed, and the district parcel appraised for slightly more than the state trust land. So that is an $8,000 difference, and we will not be paying the district a cash equalization payment to equalize these values. They are willing to complete the exchange with the values as is. So that's a distinct benefit to the Board of Land Commissioners. It allows them to receive land that has appraised at a higher value and will have a slightly higher rate of appreciation, and therefore in the future have slightly higher value than the land that they would be disposing of. The primary trust land management objective that this exchange is going to meet is going to be a community benefit. So Weston County has known that their current landfill will need to be capped and filled for quite some time, and they've been looking for another location to build their new landfill. They've run into quite a few problems trying to secure a location. They have run up against some pretty steep DEQ rules and regulations regarding where landfills can be built. And so they hired Tri-Hydro Corporation to help them do a survey of their entire county to identify parcels where it was even possible for them to build a landfill. The state trust land identified in this exchange is one of the very few parcels that were identified as being able to have a landfill built on it. And when they reached out to other owners of the few other parcels, they weren't near as favorable as they thought the state would be. So that's why they approached us with this exchange. If they are unable to complete this exchange, then they will probably need to begin trucking their trash to either Casper or Gillette, which will require an increase in the rates for all of the residents of Weston County. So they feel that this is a pretty dire need that they have to acquire this land for the purpose of building the landfill. Here we have some more beautiful photos of the state trust parcel. And this is the district parcel. This is Old Highway 85. This is the district parcel. There is only one easement on this parcel, and it is for a utility line, which you can see the posts that support that. So now I'd like to open it up to any questions about the exchange. And once we've ran through any questions, then we will solicit public comments. So if you just have a comment you would like to give, wait a moment and let's see if anyone has any questions first. We also have a representative from the Weston County Solid Waste District here to answer any questions that are more particular to the nature of the landfill or to those specific needs. So if you have those type of questions, we should be able to answer those as well. So Ben.
There's only one person attending, and its name is Robert Hartley.
And that is our representative from Weston County, and I assume he has no questions for me at this time. So Mr. Hartley, unless you would like to give us a public comment, either in favor or against this transaction, I believe that is our meeting. Great. Well, we are still receiving written comments via my email address or our written address. Oh, I forgot to talk about Holly's great table. So as I said, the primary benefit is going to be meeting a community need, but we are also maintaining our current levels of revenue generation, and we are increasing property value and moving our parcel to a location that potentially has better development moving forward. So we do feel that there is a benefit to the Board of Land Commissioners as well. So you can provide me comment up until March 16th, 2020. You're also welcome to attend the April board meeting. That will be streamed live on YouTube. You can watch, or you can register on our website to attend if you would like to provide comments at that time. You can email comments to me at jessica.merkin@wyo.gov, or you can mail them to us at this address below. And with that, unless Holly has any further comments, I believe that's our meeting.
Thanks, Jessica. I see that Mr. Hartley may be unmuted, so I'm not sure if he would like to provide a comment, but I wanted to make sure and give him another opportunity to. All right. Well, thank you, Jessica. And thank you, Mr. Hartley, for joining us. And thank you, everyone who may be listening to this live YouTube stream. Have a good